Welcome, welcome, welcome. Finally, welcome back to the Which one are we doing? We're on the Unmaskables pod today. Welcome back to the Unmaskables pod. What day is it? I don't know. It's Monday.
This is how prepared we are.
It was Tuesday 5 minutes ago. Now it's Monday again. This is the Unmaskables. This is absolutely the Unmaskables pod that you're listening to right now.
Do you know how I know that's real? We know that's real because Ender's here.
Right, there we go.
That's
a good point. Valid.
Something
valid
I probably
point.
should have picked up on.
Maybe I just joined the Uncoachables pod, though.
It's possible. Let this be a precursor to the fact that this will be the least prepared that most of us have ever been for a podcast.
We read the comic 2 weeks ago.
we were supposed to record this for you guys about a week and a half ago. And, shit happens.
Life happens.
Yeah, we didn't get there. So now we're here, and instead of being smart and rereading to catch up on things, we decided, you know what? It's Monday. Might be Tuesday, but it's mostly Monday. Let's just do the pod. We'll do it live.
About an hour and a half ago, I was finishing up working out. I was like, why don't we pod tonight? And
so here we are.
For some reason, these idiots agreed.
we owed it. Number one, we owed it to you, the listener, to do this. Number two, and probably a little bit more importantly than you, the listener, we owed it to our friend Ender here to actually listen and talk about a comic book that he had recommended to us literally a month ago. And his prior episode is lost somewhere on the internet, but shit happens.
There we have it, guys. The first Ender episode live.
True.
And not the first one live, but the one that will actually make it out and be recorded.
Yeah, it's the first one that most people will see and or hear.
Yeah, big facts. And of course, we are talking about Nightwing Year One, which was written by Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon. The artist on this one was Scott McDaniel. It was published in 2005, and it is a comic run that includes Nightwing 101 through 106. Just want to get this out of the way. We've had year ones before, Batman being the most notable, right, in the 1980s. Yep. And I would probably say that the Batman year one is like canon to Batman lore, right? When we got other year one stories, we got like Wildcat, Green Arrow, Huntress, Robin, and Batgirl. I will say that out of all of the other year ones that we've had, this has been the most interesting, and then also the one that's been most replicated. And what I mean by that is that not only have you seen it via the cartoons, Teen Titans, but you've also seen it on the Titans TV show. And it's also popped up a couple other times throughout the course of some of the DC movies that have been made throughout the years. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but this is probably one of the more surprising comics that I've read. Only because.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of the main reasons I picked it. So, I did some research on Nightwing comics because, Dick Grayson's a great character. He's not... I don't want to say he's not too mainstream because, we do have Titans, the TV show now. We had Teen Titans back in the day, but he's not as big screen familiar. So he's not as much of a family name as obviously Bruce Wayne or even any of the other CW shows, for example. Not as family friendly, quote unquote.
Are you dissing George Clooney's Batman?
Well.
Wait, pause. Hold on. Before we continue this conversation, of all the Batmans that have ever played Batman, aside from Christian Bale, who's your favorite?
Aside from Bale?
Yeah. Did you just say Ben Affleck?
Kevin Conroy.
Oh, well,
okay,
Kevin Conroy.
No. Okay, that's an animated version.
That is a cop-out. Kevin Conroy is the favorite.
Fuck you. Yes. Yeah, he is
like
the
saying
favorite.
Mark Hamill's the best Joker. He
right.
is.
Also true. Yeah, he is.
I'm gonna say Ben Affleck.
I'm gonna go with a low-key pick that no one ever likes, but Michael Keaton.
I think Keaton is probably everybody's pick.
Yeah,
he's good.
Keaton, but let's not forget the Val Kilmer Batman wasn't awful either.
Val Kilmer wasn't awful either.
Yeah,
I don't think any of the Batman actors have been like
Robert Pattinson's gonna suck.
Oh boy, I don't know that Clooney.
Maybe
Batman
it's
Forever
sketchy.
was. I don't know. The trailer for Pattinson's Batman looks
The trailer looks great for
Fantastic.
Pattinson's
It's
Batman.
a trailer. It's a trailer. It's
It
a
is,
trailer.
but that's already
trailer.
better than anything DC has put on the big screen in some
Yep.
years. So,
Oh, dude, but like we talk about this, Joker was so good. You guys are really going this route with me, huh?
I
Dude,
thought
a
it was
comedian-
good until the first
end.
plot twist was good. That he was kind of making up his relationship with Zazie.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did that same plot twist on a bigger level, and it was terrible.
Dude, a comedian wrote a DC movie and succeeded. That's all I have to say. He wrote a comedian, number one, wrote a social commentary movie and succeeded. Those are the three things you need to know. And Joaquin Phoenix is probably, next to Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors we've ever seen, male actors we've ever seen.
He's a
Legitimate
fantastic
male
actor, and that was his acting in that movie was definitely fantastic. It's just it was funny that DC chose to make a Joker movie after they had just received so much hate about being too dark.
Did they get hate for being too dark? I just
That's the whole DCEU hate. Is it started off as they were just like, no, this stuff's too dark. Like it's not Marvel.
You mean like literally too dark, like color graded too dark? Because yes,
also yes,
that too actually.
All right, so let's get back to fucking to Nightwing year
Dick.
one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what are we here for? What day is
so
it?
Chuck Dixon's Nightwing run is considered one of the better Nightwing runs, and that's part of the reason I was attracted towards the story. I hadn't read it before. This Nightwing year one is, as most year ones are, a retelling of stories from a different point of view of events or a different chain of events. So this is the first time we really see this whole story from Dick Grayson's perspective. And it's an interesting story. So we see, Dick starts off as Robin. He eventually becomes Nightwing, and there's like a really good plot along the way, and we'll get into it. But this is one of the storylines that it gives you a lot of detail. You don't get lost in just trying to keep up with the story. This is a read that anyone can really pick up and get into. And I really like that about Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon's a great writer. I mean, he's written, if I remember correctly, he's done a lot of the Punisher runs. He has done, he did Batman Nightfall, which is what Dark Knight Rises is basically based off of. So there was a lot of familiarity there with Chuck Dixon. This was written in 2005, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so 2005. So, and you can very much see the Batman animated series art style reflected here in a lot of the characters. Like it's still fresh off the influence of the animated series, and that's kind of the art style that DC was using at the time. So if that's I think that's a pretty good background on it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other thoughts before we dive into it?
Yeah, I wanted to add like one or two more things here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of which is it's such a this comic run is less about fighting villains and more about
it's a coming of age story essentially.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was that there generally very few superheroes, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's probably just like Batman, Superman, The Flash, and maybe Green Lantern, depending on which lantern you pick, in DC canon, get humanized. And this is one of the few times that you actually got like a real human perspective about like the pressures of being a superhero, what it means to fail as a superhero, like all like the regular person shit that you don't normally get in comic books, we actually got in this one. And I think that's why like I actually was surprised that I enjoyed it so much, because like, hate to say this, there's a lot of like identifiable things in the story that I think anybody that picks this up, be you a teenager, a younger kid or an adult, can kind of be like, yeah, kind of, that's me. You know what I mean? And it was really cool. The first volume is Nightwing Year 1, Chapter 1, Only Robins Have Wings, which is like a stellar... It's a stellar way to... It's kind of like a little bit of a meant to fuck with you in terms of like how we approach Robin and how we look at Robin, right? So like Batman is fighting Clayface, and apparently like Clayface is after a baby, and we don't really quite know why he's after the baby, or maybe like I just like breezed by it.
We did after, so we didn't know at first, but we learned afterwards why he was after the baby. But basically, what happens here is that's already like this is happening. This Batman and Clayface showdown's happening, and Dick's late because Dick was finishing up some business with the Titans. So Dick gets there, and
Dick gets there. They lead Clayface out into the snow. They freeze him, which like I don't know anybody, like I don't know if you guys are like big Batman fans, but like we literally know the story when it comes to certain villains before it even happens.
Yeah.
So like with Clayface, it's either we're gonna light him on fire and turn him into like mud or like hard mud. We're gonna freeze him, or we're just gonna pour so much water on him that he like dissipates in water. It's like the dumbest. Like Clayface is probably the dumbest villain you could have.
He's dumb, and he's also like insanely powerful while he's not like he's got these crazy like obvious weaknesses, but Clayface is a behemoth, really.
Yeah,
like he is hard to take down, especially when you're considering like the Bat family's all just physical hand-to-hand people with some tech.
Right. So Robin shows up late. Clayface is about to like point a gun at them, but it backfires, and then Clayface escapes. Right, like so they freeze him. He like kind of gets through this whole little thing. Batman and Robin are arguing about his business, like whatever he was doing with the Titans. This gun doesn't go off properly for Clayface. He escapes, and then Robin chases after him into the sewer.
Yeah, and this whole time, Bruce is pretty much triggered at Robin. So Bruce is just kind of giving Dick like a lot of shit while he's here. He's like not even really talking to him properly. And then, just typical angry Bruce brooding fashion. And then Bruce tells him not to go off after Clayface, but Dick goes ahead and jumps into the sewer.
So this is the first time I identified with Dick, and I don't know, and like I think a lot of this episode for us is going to be the way that we identify with comics. So if you've been in the workforce long enough, especially corporate, you've probably heard the term, I would rather you ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Yes.
And that is verbatim what I thought of when I was reading this whole little exchange. So like Batman's like, don't do it. Robin's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. They fight in the sewer, and then my man almost gets his ass whooped by Clayface. But luckily, what saves Robin? A fucking storm drain. Which, like, of course, it's a man made of clay. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Like Robin's almost narrowly beaten, but survives. Clayface is gone. Batman grabs the baby, and Ender. Who was that baby to Clayface?
It was actually Clayface's kid. So Clayface was actually kidnapping his kid. Essentially, is what the story was before that point, from the kid's mother.
Which is very excellent. I didn't know that clay people could procreate.
Well, there's a guy in there.
There is a guy, but he looks like. Listen, bro.
Scrawny dude.
I've been on dating apps for the last 2 weeks now, bro. And let me tell you something. If he's getting play and I can't, we have problems. I have problems.
You just need to move to Gotham, then I guess. I don't.
Standards are lower there, dude.
Listen, if it's fast and loose in Gotham, I'll be there in a week. So Batman and Robin then go back to the Batcave, and in kind of like a left field moment, Alfred, God bless his soul, who's always kind of been, I mean, not just a protector and a father figure to Bruce, but also any of the strays that Bruce picks up, right? Like Alfred, Alfred is like the mother to Batman's stern father to some degree. Like Alfred is the loving care and affection and the patience, whereas Batman tends to be like an alcoholic father that just wants to beat on his children. Like he's the Joe Jackson of the comic book world. So Alfred out of left field gives Robin a new suit, and Batman loses his fucking mind. Like he goes apeshit. What did he say to him exactly, Ender? Does anyone remember?
Oh man, it was basically I don't remember the back and forth, and it basically ends with Bruce firing Robin.
Yes.
And it wasn't
Yes.
necessarily brought on because of the suit, but at the end of the conversation, Bruce, like as Robin's walking away, he says, "Leave the suit."
And it's almost like I almost feel like Batman went full dad mode, where like, you know how your dads when they were younger would just start yelling at you, and then they would beat themselves up over shit that you may or may not have done. That's exactly what that felt like, and it was just really frustrating.
He was doing the things that Bruce said, but like it's not necessarily bad that he was doing it. Like, he's out doing his own thing with the Titans, and you know, doing his own thing, and Bruce wants him under his wing, for lack of a better term, at all times.
That's right.
And
I do remember that now.
He's not like, because and he sees Dick as a loose cannon who's never there when he needs to be, and like, you know, he's lost discipline and all this and all that, and Bruce hates it because he's Bruce, and if he's not fully
like, I need
100%
devotion, or something like that.
If he's not fully in control of something, and then like he's not about it, so
he's like, you in or you out.
Yeah,
and you ain't in, so you out.
And so I found it. So one of the things that I loved is that a lot of the narration is done from Dick's perspective, right?
Yep.
And
Dick is narrating this entire story.
Yeah, and a lot of it is like first person narrative, which is like, you know, it lends itself to that like ideology of, is the first person narrator a good narrator? Can we trust their perspective? Do we really believe everything that they say to be reality, or is there something that's it can be wrong? And you read it so often in books, right? Like, one of my fucking least favorite books is Catcher in the Rye, right? Where Holden Caulfield's running around calling everybody a fucking phony, and it's just like, no, dude, you're a lunatic. Eventually someone's going to kill John Lennon because they read your book, and like, that's not good. So the difference with Dick, though, is that like, he is like a genuine, honest person, and you get that from like the inception of this entire comic. Like, he says,
his narration is to Bruce. Like, you know, this whole time it's basically him talking to Bruce. So you don't know how or why, but you know that he's talking to Bruce after these events have happened, and it's really Robin's truth. It's Dick's truth. So you're getting his point of view on things, how he felt about things. And you're not met with some crazy opinionated view on anything. You're just seeing things from Dick's perspective. So it's like, it's really refreshing in that you don't have to, obviously, this is probably the first kind of lighthearted story that we've picked up on over the last like 5, other than Headlopper. And the first 4 we had were all very in your psyche. Is this real? What's going on? And this is more of a, we can read this and we're just reading Dick's truth.
Yeah. And to that point, Ender, I think one of the wonderful things about Dick's truth is, are you ready for this transition? This is a Bill Simmons style transition.
Oh, yeah.
In 102, which is aptly titled Chapter 2, Friends in High Places, Dick's truth leads him to Metropolis, where he does something that very few heroes tend to do, which is try to solicit advice from Batman. I personally wouldn't solicit advice from Batman, from Superman, because I think Superman's a little bit too much of a goody two shoes. But when you're out there in those streets and you got a friend like that, you definitely go ask him for advice. So he travels to Metropolis. He asks Batman for advice. And of course, as in all things comic books, while they're starting this conversation, what happens?
Lois walks in. And, then there's the other shit that goes down in traffic. Yeah.
I was gonna say the terrorist targeting, and of course, you know, Dick and Superman, they stop the perpetrators, and Dick does something that is it continues to reinforce this thing about how honest and how selfless he is, right? Which is he grabs the bombs that these terrorists were using and literally just yeets himself off a building. Like,
oh yeah, he was ready to die.
Minimize casualties. He's like, I'm done. I gotta save these guys.
So
no second thought about it.
None. So 2 things that stand out to me about this specific like 2 boards that you had there. The first of which is he must have been feeling pretty shitty and low about not being Robin anymore for him to want to do something like that, right? And then number 2, and probably most important, Bruce did a good job teaching him about sacrifice. And if there's no greater teacher in losing things, I think it would be Batman would be the one to teach you how to like be selfless, be courageous. Like Superman does that shit because he can, right? Like Wonder
Right.
Woman does that shit because she can. Green Lantern does that shit because they can. Cyborg is literally a computer. Batman and Robin are humans, and yet they still are willing to do those types of things because that's a learned experience that they've had, or that's been kind of ingrained by Batman into the DNA of the group. But as Robin is falling, of course, Superman catches him and let him know that there's like some sort of like fail safe or whatever in order for him to like stop the device from exploding, which adorable. Very adorable for Superman to reassure Robin like that. And I need a kicker. What happens after this? They go to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, Robin's no longer Robin, formerly Robin, Dick Grayson, the formerly known as Robin.
The artist formerly known as Robin.
Yeah, the artist formerly known as Robin. He's going on this soul-searching journey, ends up with Superman. Superman takes him to his fortress. And it's basically because and then, they get to the fortress, and Clark kind of turns to Dick, and he's like, why do you think I have this place? And Dick's like, I don't know, to keep trophies of like your victories. And he's like, nope, it's just a place for myself so that I can come here, relax, have peace of mind. And Dick's kind of like in this whole rut, essentially, where he's with Batman all the time or he's with the Titans all the time. He doesn't really have his me time. So he hasn't really had his time to be introspective. And so after this kind of triggers Dick into thinking, where did I feel truly at home or at peace? And where does he go? Back to Haley's Circus.
Yep.
His parents died when he was young, where he was a trapeze artist.
We have to touch on one thing here, which is the story of Nightwing.
Yep.
So in this conversation, Batman tells him the legendary story of Nightwing, a Kryptonian hero who essentially was banned like out of his family and like shunned by the community.
He was essentially Krypton's version of Dick Grayson. Like if you really think about the parallel, because he didn't have powers when he was on Krypton. He was just an average person. Like they all were under their red sun. So he was just an active hero as Bruce Wayne or Dick Grayson, doing the right thing. So Dick's inspired by this.
That tells you how much I remembered about this. I still had the jail cell story in my mind from the Titans series, from the Nightwing origin.
All right, wait. Before we move on, and this might be spoilers to you guys that I don't think so. Fuck. Can you tell us that jail cell story, Matt?
So the jail,
because I just want
the Nightwing.
Let's call out the differences.
The Nightwing origin in the Titans HBO series is Dick's in a jail cell. He's with three, maybe at this time it's two. He's with two or three, kind of sort of former gang members in prison. They are getting out and leaving the gang life behind. But that will get them killed if they remain in prison. So their big plan is to escape. And the youngest and most naive of the group has this kind of etched out drawing of kind of sort of the Nightwing logo on the wall. And Dick's like, what the hell is that? And he goes into this story about how the Nightwing is like a Mexican or Hispanic. I forget where they're from. I don't remember if it was from Mexico or El Salvador or whatever, but
Central American. Yeah,
it's Central American legend that comes down and helps those most in need when they need it most. And this essentially kid is certain that no matter what happens when they go to escape this prison that night, that the Nightwing is going to come down and save them because they're good people really, and they're trying to do the right thing, and the Nightwing would never leave a good person to be in harm's way or whatever. And like, yeah, so that's the difference. It's kind of sort of the same story, except here it's a Central American folklore versus a Kryptonian legend. Like,
yeah,
but it's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
it's funny because like you always have to appreciate the writers of these shows for taking these like small or large in some cases um creative decisions in certain directions. And in the Titan series, I think number one, it removes the prospect of having to write in Superman, right? So like that's super
Yeah.
important. But number two, it also again, and like I think this is gonna like I said, is kind of like a Dick theme, right? He's just human, and like it really makes him a person that is incredibly empathetic and very like willing to listen to people and willing like he is the in most respects he is the anti-Batman in that regard because he wants to be helpful and he
Yeah,
wants
Dick
to listen
is
to people.
he's always been a foil to Bruce in the sense that Dick's the only lighthearted Bat family member, really.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is pretty edgelord. Like Bruce is pretty edgelord, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Barbara, they're all very edgelord other than Alfred and Dick. They're the only two that are more lighthearted, you know, they joke around, they try to take themselves not too seriously at the same time like being completely serious. So it's nice to see Dick really come into his own when he's going on this journey because I mean that's essentially what he needed.
Right. So Dick goes back to Haley's circus.
Yep.
And
I
who
like
does he see?
so before we even get into Haley Circus, I did like the whole them trying to cover up Lois with hockey. Was it hockey, right? That Superman was saying that they were friends from
Oh
hockey or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. She's like, "Who is
Oh,
Dick
yeah, yeah,
Grayson,
yeah.
and why does it sound familiar, and how do you know him?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, hockey or something. We're fans of the
Lois
same
is like,
team."
"Who
Like,
the you don't like hockey?" And the next day, Lois comes in and asks him about the game last night, and Clark's like, "Oh yeah, you know, up 2-0 or whatever." Very
Fucking
unfortunate.
brilliant.
Great,
Could you
just
imagine
great.
Superman on skates? Ah, that'd be like to behold.
Yeah,
He'd make Sidney Crosby look like a
it'd be
bitch.
pretty majestic, dude. It'd be Chris Yamaguchi's second coming.
Ooh, but like more physical, sensual.
this has gotten
Imagine
weird.
if Superman played hockey instead of football at high school.
Well,
Later
okay,
on.
I can only get so erect. Moving on. Nightwing, Year 1, Chapter 3, Dead Man Talking. So Dick walks around Dally Circus. He's very much like rekindling his past. Lorna
He
shows up.
asked for a job, essentially. He was
Yeah,
like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to chill here for a little while.
Yeah, he's
I'm
kind of
gonna be
having
a
an
regular old
identity
dude.
crisis. He doesn't know
Yeah.
who he is. Like for all this time, he's been Robin, and that's been his life. He's either been Robin with Bruce or he's been Robin with the Titans, and he only knows himself as Robin. He doesn't know how to be Dick Grayson, and he doesn't really know who he is without the suit. Doesn't really know who he is without the Titans or Bruce. So he steps away from everything and goes right back to the circus to be Dick Grayson to kind of well, A, it's a comfort zone for him because it's all he knows other than that Robin suit, but B, to kind of figure out who he wants to be going forward and what he wants to do, where he wants to be, who he wants to be with, all this other stuff. A very, very young boy coming of age story.
Young boy.
Do you remember when this happened on the Titan show too? To figure this out?
I think
Does
that's
he go back
technically
to
how
the
Titans
circus?
really starts.
He goes back to
Doesn't
the,
go to
he
the-
goes back to the side of the circus though, right?
He
In
goes,
the series.
but he also uses Wonder Woman's mini. Forget her name.
yeah. He uses
Donna.
yeah. He goes back to Donna. Yeah.
And like that is so like obviously the stories don't match up in terms of like perfect timing with Titans and like Teen Titans, right? Like
yeah. Well, they the Titans HBO series like really changed. Like your Teen Titans, like the cast is different,
Everyone's
but also
older.
like everyone's older at this point. Like he's
Yeah.
already been
Right.
through all the shit we're reading about in year one.
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
he doesn't become Nightwing the
Right,
same way,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? But so what I loved about the Donna story on Titans was like they go out and she's like some sort of photographer or whatever, and she's like, you know, mingle, do things, talk to people, and he's like, usually I'm beating them with sticks. And like in this case, he loses Robin, and he's just like, I am gonna go and try to fly off of trapezes again. So it's just like there's no difference really in who he is at his, you know, at the Dick Grayson DNA most basic level, be it in the comic or in TV, he is just this like he's essentially conflicted because his identity is being a superhero. Like that is what he is. He's an amazing guy.
He likes
that does
to help
amazing
people.
things. Exactly. So in the comic, Lorna shows up and shows him like an old poster of his dad in a suit similar to Deadman's, which surprising. Ender, Matt, I don't know a lot about Deadman. Can either of you give our listeners some color about who he is or what the fuck is wrong with him?
Actually, Deadman's brother running around walking as Deadman. Deadman died before this story. I'm not sure how long before this story.
How is that possible, dude? He's already dead. It's in the name.
I was gonna say, but he like really died.
But he like actually died. Yeah, it was.
No, but he did.
So he actually, I actually just opened up his Wikipedia page, and so Boston Brand actually got his powers from Rama Kushna, the Hindu goddess.
Oh.
So
does this call out to you, Ender, or is that a bad question?
Gave his spirit the power to possess any living being. So while he was searching for his killer, he felt obliged to help others. But essentially, Deadman died while he was getting revenge for like the murder of his wife, I think.
Damn.
I mean, it's usually someone that's murdered. But yeah, that's the summary of Deadman. He was murdered before this. I mean, Deadman throughout this issue is really just here to meme on Robin while possessing random people.
I was gonna say he's the comedic relief. Yeah. He possesses like 3 or 4 different people and calls him Boy Wonder like with each person, and just makes Robin or just makes Dick be like, what the fuck?
What's wrong with you? So multiple times he was like to that point he's approached like by someone who knows who his secret identity is, right? So like you guys were saying, he just possesses different people and then he starts calling Boy Wonder, or like I think at one point he called him Finchy or something like that, or like my little bird or something.
Little bird or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Just making Robin references to freak Dick out for no reason.
Exactly. And he's just like sweating bullets because he's like, how do these people know? They know. And parallel to Dick going on this like moment of exploration, Alfred is meandering about the Batcave. One little Dick Grayson is, right? And by God, what does he find? He sees a fucking young boy tied up in the Batcave. Super freaky, number 1. Number 2, very unsettling Batman. And number 3, Batman, who...
He's like, Master Bruce, who is this?
Kind of sus by Batman. He goes, I caught a boy. His name is Jason Todd. He was sealing my tires, and I don't know what to do with him. All right, bro. Number 1, here's the deal. You can't be tying up little boys. I don't care if they're stealing your tires or not. You report them to the police. You throw them off a bridge, but you don't tie them up and put them in your basement. That's creepy. Number 2, the ball's on Jason Todd, bro.
Well, that's why Bruce takes him is Well, like you have to remember, like Bruce doesn't show it, but he's also kind of in crisis now. Like he's had Robin with him or Dick with him for so long. He essentially raised Dick, and like so he's also like, what do I do without Dick now? How do I function without Dick? So he immediately goes and
the reason he was mad in the first place. He was mad because he couldn't function without Dick.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Dick was off being a Titan.
So he goes, like, the first person he finds is this kid who has just the balls, like the massive, just Rocky Mountain sized balls to try to steal the wheels from the Batmobile. So he's like, I can take this kid and I can train him, and like part of him is also thinking I can get back at Dick by training this kid and putting him in his suit. And I can fuck with Dick just as much as like it's very self-serving, him grabbing Jason Todd like that. And you find like much later, like you find out how much that fucks up Jason Todd too. But like, but yes, it's very self-serving as much as it is anything.
Jason.
Why he grabs Jason Todd and starts training him essentially.
So now that we have this introduction to Jason Todd and Batman's existential crisis, Robin, we cut back to Dick Grayson, who's at the circus, and he's currently wearing his father's costume, and now he's actually practicing his act, getting ready to return as the only flying. I'm sorry, I can't say it without laughing. As the only flying Grayson, because the other ones that flew a little too close to the sun and came crashing down.
Oof.
But what's fucked up about this is that while he's practicing his act, a lion breaks loose, and Dick basically like wrestles it as if he's like Steve Irwin, and someone tranks the lion. Which, like, number one, again,
this is where he gets some eskrima, I think, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And like in 103, I think we just get the sense of like just the balls on everybody. Like literally the entire time I was like, the balls on this guy. And then you turn the page and you're like, the balls on this guy. And it's like a perpetual, just like the balls. So they trank the lion, everything's fine. Dick, like instinctively, for some weird reason, just starts making batarangs. Like it's just like something that is in his DNA, or just what he is, and he's just like, well, I guess I should just keep these on me just in case. Weirdo.
Yeah, I think he was kind of like going through his metamorphosis at this point, where he got the costume on, which his dad's old costume essentially becomes his first Nightwing costume after a little sprucing up, and he was like, you know what? Let me get some batarangs to go with this bad boy. We're gonna go out. We're gonna deliver some justice, and while this is happening, back at the Batcave, we realize that Deadman was actually checking in on Dick for Bruce, who doesn't even flinch when Deadman walks off to him.
Which, like, that is the one thing that I love the most about Batman. Number one is the disappearing act whenever, and he's just fucking gone. And then the other side that I love is whenever, like, I don't know, like Darkseid shows up and he's just like, and that's all you get out of him. Like, that's it. He's just like, cool. So Deadman checks up, like reports back to Bruce. They have like this little exchange.
Tells him Dick's not coming back.
Right, and more importantly, it was, to go back to the metaphor I made earlier, like the hard father that like doesn't care about his kid, but really at the end of the day is like a big old softy and loves their kid. It's like tough love kind of thing. Like that dad's never going to stop loving your kid. So like, you know, he'll do.
Want to make sure he was okay.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
So Deadman comes back and possesses Cleveland, which is a great name in my existence.
Because Cleveland's brother is Boston.
Right. Yeah. For a wide
Boston array of brand and Cleveland brand,
which is absolutely insane. And Deadman tells Dick something super important, which is that his dad would be proud of him. And that basically like he should continue on the path that he's on. If it's self-exploration, or if that, like, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, you're right thing.
You're doing it right. You're going the right way. You know, just basically dropping the hint of keep going. Right, you're good.
And then at the end of 103, what do we see?
Right after Batman walks away, JT, young Justin Todd, walks in with the pixie boots on, the Robin suit.
Oh man, so full on, no leggings, just drawers and boots.
Yep.
Jason Todd got cheeks hanging out everywhere. This man,
it's almost gross.
The balls on that really kid, man.
The balls on that guy.
the balls on this guy. So 104 starts up, and it is probably, I would probably say, the linchpin in the series for me, as far as in terms of the way that I read the comic, right? Like, this is the big episode, or like the big run.
So this is Nightwing's big return to Gotham.
Yeah.
Basically, Nightwing leaves the circus, with the intention of going back to Gotham and making his own path. And he, not just to us, like, he as Dick Grayson's like, I'm gonna make my big entrance. Like, I'm gonna make sure everyone knows my name. I'm gonna go say hello to Gordon first, real quick. I'm gonna be Nightwing now.
And what I loved is that this one is called Night and the City in Chapter 4, and obviously to play on words, Nightwing, the city, return to Gotham, whatever. So he introduces himself to Commissioner Gordon, like Inder said, and he stops a holdup, just like big dick energy man he is.
Oh yeah.
And then while Batman is testing the new Robin in the in the Batcave, Nightwing takes down more thugs, and he's just like, "Listen, while you're doing your training, I'm out here doing big boy things."
My favorite is he rides like he's with Babs on the bike, and my favorite is he goes to Arkham and breaks in just to whip Joker's ass in the cell and then leave. He's like, "I'm Nightwing, bitch. Tell all your friends I'm here," and then just leaves. Joker wasn't even doing it. Joker's just chilling. He doesn't even do anything this time. He's just sitting in a cell at Arkham.
I read all of Joker's lines in Mark Hamill's voice.
He shows up, walks in, whips his ass, says, "I'm Nightwing, bitch. Tell everybody about me," and then leaves. That's it.
I think like Two-Face is like the next cell over or some shit.
Yeah, and Joker thinks he thinks it's a joke. He's like, "Are you fucking with me right now?" Like, and he gets out, and Barbara's like, that's probably not a very good idea.
Well, Dick Grayson literally comes back as Big Dick Energy Grayson.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, like the transformation, the circus, him talking to Deadman, his dad's suit, like it was almost like watching John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. Like just come out like from like ratty clothes in Brooklyn to like I'm spiffed up in a white suit listening to the Bee Gees in my headphones. Like he was just like, I'm here, I'm ready to party. What's up? I want to address this real quick though. So prior to him beating the shit out of the Joker at Arkham, he hooks up with Batgirl.
Yes. So Barbara and Dick have been having like an on and off again relationship for a while.
Right. And
Dick cares more about Barbara than Barbara cares about him.
100%. Barbara cares more about being a superhero than she cares about Dick. Like she is like boss girl, dope, I do what I want mentality embodied. And Dick's just like, I love you. And then they're like, well, no, you know what we should do? We should just like we should just beat up on villains. That's what we should do. We should beat up our relationship. Our relationship is hinged on beating up on. Let's just do that. That is our release. So one of the other things that is touched upon on the Titans show and in this comic is one very important thing, but it's a little bit different in this comic book, and that is the infamous Bruce Wayne tracking device.
Oh yeah.
In Titans, it's implanted into their arms, like the fucking lunatic Bruce Wayne is. In the comic, they put it into the suit, which is a lot easier for them to. But then you realize when Alfred actually like talks back to Bruce about it, and he's just like, "You can't do this. These are people. They're not your property. They're not your this." And Bruce is just like, "Shut up. I do what I want."
Bruce is like,
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So then, like Matt said, Nightwing and Batgirl, they go mess around with the Joker. They apprehend some criminals, and last but not least, and this is the most important part, they not the most important part, but it's one of the last parts of the Batgirl and Nightwing kind of saga in this one. They lead Gotham City Police Department back to the Penguin. And I just want to talk two things about the Penguin. Number one, the Penguin in the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson's gonna fucking suck. And number two, more importantly, of all the Batman villains, he is my least favorite.
Cobblepot is a terrible and good villain. He's been utilized well in certain situations, but he devolved, right? So like I think they overuse Penguin as too much of a comedic relief at some point. And like the I guess the word I'm looking for is the primal anger part of the Penguin is kind of not really on display that often, which is unfortunate.
Right. What were you going to say, Matt?
I was going to say I don't have hate for the Pattinson movie just yet, but I
don't.
They did like the Gotham version, the Fox show version of Penguin was like not bad. It wasn't super comedic. And what like they had like, there were moments when you like that anger kind of came out and stuff like that, and like that did a lot more justice than fucking Danny DeVito or whatever from back in the day.
Yeah.
The thing, the Penguin for me though is like a very 1940s villain, right? And that he is like a swindler. almost mob boss esque,
yeah,
like
like
Two
club
Face.
Essentially, it's supposed to
gangster.
be like a Falcone. Like he
Right.
is just a mob boss, essentially.
Bingo. And what really stops him from, like, I think, playing in the newer DC canon, at least for like the films and like the comics to some degree too, is that he is so, like, he can be portrayed so cartoonishly. And
Yeah.
that's why whenever like I see him on a fucking panel, I'm just like, God damn. So immediately I'm like, all right, whatever. But before we finish Night and the City, Nightwing's big return, back in the Batcave, Batman tells the new Robin, Jason Todd, to study the footage of Nightwing and prepare for the gauntlet. The reason I bring this up, it's very, 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 Batman probably considers Dick to be the greatest of all the Robins. Like,
Yeah. He
all
is
of the
what
Robins,
all the Robins after this ultimately have to look like. They have to. That's the threshold. They got to
oldest
meet
child
that
syndrome.
threshold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the oldest child syndrome.
Yep.
Right? Like the oldest child is always like it's either like the oldest child is like the greatest thing that ever happened, or is like an eternal up. It can only go one of two ways. In this case, it's like the greatest thing that ever happened.
And in this case,
even
Dick really is the greatest, like, Robin, honestly. Like, ultimately, after years and years and years go by, like, Dick's really the moral standard. He's the most like Bruce, ultimately.
Well, I think he's the most like an ideal Bruce, right?
Yeah.
So like,
yeah,
he's like what is it, like chaotic neutral or whatever, and then like Damian is just like chaotic evil. Jason's
the chaotic, just, I don't even know.
He's a
Chaotic.
disaster.
They're all chaotic evil.
Yeah, he's a disaster, but like they devolve very intensely from Jason Todd to Damian.
Barbara's lawful neutral.
Sure.
But,
yeah,
like,
I would
Dick's
agree with
chaotic good.
that. Yeah, Dick is gay. Like he's the better version of Bruce. Bruce wished he could be, you know. And then Damian, I think, is on the like. So like Jason Todd is like the first move to the left of Bruce in terms of like craziness, and then Damian is like an outright killer.
Yeah.
And I'm missing a Robin in there, aren't I?
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake, who is a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Is there anything else from 104 that you guys want to mention?
No, I looked back for a little while there because I was looking at my Rogues Gallery, my Batman Last Supper, and I was like, I guess Penguin is probably my least favorite villain. I don't know. Scarecrow's pretty up there for me too, though. I don't really like Scarecrow.
Scarecrow was redeemed by what's his face playing him in the Nolan series, though.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy is a fantastic actor.
Yeah, that dude's awesome.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Well, I mean, if you've ever watched what's it called?
I know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Peaky Blinders.
Oh, yeah,
Peaky Blinders. Thank you.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders is incredible. So 105 is aptly named like killing two birds, which is absolutely adorable. This one starts off kind of weird. I don't even know how to like even say this without it.
Like, how to even transition into this, right? Like
it's just weird. Yeah, it's just like you start 105 and you're like, what are we doing? And it's Alfred?
So Alfred's dressing up as, we later find out he's dressing up as Two-Face, and because Batman is getting ready to put on an actual gauntlet for both Dick and Jason, but they don't know it yet. Only Bruce knows it. It's such a Bruce move, right? He's preparing Alfred to be Two-Face for this scenario. However, no one knows that it's going to be Alfred.
Right.
And they don't know, like, Jason thinks he's preparing for the gauntlet, and he's going to run the gauntlet, and he's running the gauntlet, and part of his gauntlet is to fuck with Nightwing, but he knows he's supposed to, like, fuck with Dick in some way, or beat Dick, and, like, all this other stuff, but he doesn't know why, and he doesn't know the true level of fuckery that Bruce is trying to do to
he doesn't
Dick.
realize at first that Dick's even going to be there, but Jason at least knows of Dick, whereas Dick shows up to the spot and he's like, who the
why are you
get out of my clothes?
So
Barbara is also in on this whole thing.
I was gonna get there. So all of this setup, and of course it's very like Bruce Wayne, right? Like very Batman-esque, where it's just like so much preparation and so much like it's almost like spycraft from like the CIA or something. And Dick is in his room and he's just woken up by some like lunatic housekeeper. He calls Barbara, and she's just like, "We're staking out this location. Come help me out." And Dick's like, "Bet."
Dick's like, "Yes, it's a date."
Perfect, right? Yes. He's like, we're gonna beat up some villains, and I'm gonna beat them Doonies down. This is perfect. But later that night, Barbara doesn't show up, and Nightwing.
And Dick sits there.
Yeah, he just waits for her like
he
a
waits.
bitch.
I think it was like an hour or two or something.
Yeah. It was like at least a couple hours, and then all of a sudden, who comes in but Robin? And he like Matt mentioned, he's in the goal or whatever. So now like Nightwing's like, "Oh shit, I've been replaced. This is awful," and he chases after Jason.
It's funny what Nightwing does here too. So after Nightwing eventually catches up to Jason after he chases him down, he just grabs him, goes to a phone booth, calls Barbara.
That part was funny.
But what does he do before that?
He's like, "Come get your fucking kid."
He ties him up the same way Batman tied him up. I don't know. It was the exact same hog tie style that Batman had him in. And this poor kid, like, he's been tied up twice in like a couple days at this point, you imagine, or like a few weeks.
He's like, "Let me out."
Like he calls her Barbara, and he's just like, "I want to know what the fuck is going on. Come get your boy." But of course, Jason Todd, being the sneaky little bastard that he is, he escapes, and now he is 1000% convinced that Nightwing is a part of like the Gauntlet test, right?
The problem is, while this is going on, Bruce and Alfred Face are driving through, and Alfred gets hot in his Two-Face mask or makeup and puts the window down to get some air, with Bruce pretending to be the chauffeur.
Yeah.
When the window's
I didn't even realize
down,
this was Bruce until after.
The problem is, when the window's down, some thugs or some gangsters see Two-Face in the backseat of a limo, and they're like, "What the fuck? This dude's supposed to be locked up." So they call their boss and be like, "Yo, Two-Face is out on the streets. We need to get his ass.
We gotta get him now, pronto."
Because their boss is new in town and wanted to make his mark.
Yeah.
Their boss happens to be Killer Croc, that no one knows of yet or knows he's in town. So now they have a little bit of a problem. Bruce gets shot several times, I think, if I remember correctly.
They both get shot, I think.
When his boys come to take what they think is Two-Face. So, yeah, Alfred's okay. He gets captured by Croc. But Bruce is very, very, very injured. Has to make a trip to his underground nurse. He was able to get one call off, kind of, sort of, half belligerently while passing out from the medication, to basically tell Dick that, "Hey, this ain't the Gauntlet. Shit's real now. Alfred's in trouble." So now, now this whole game has become some real shit.
As this dumbass is making this fucking call, Nightwing and Robin are literally whooping each other's ass.
Oh yeah,
like a bunch of just angry brothers. Yep. Like they're just like, "You stole my PS5. Well, you shit in my pants. Well, I'm gonna fuck your dog." Like it's just like so bad.
I'm gonna rub my balls in each other's ass.
You won't.
Right. And like he makes this call. Not only do Robin and Nightwing go after Alfred, now Batgirl's involved too, who is also a bit of a linchpin in all of this, because like she kind of set everybody up.
She feels guilty
she should take
now
some responsibility.
because exactly.
So did Barbara make it over to Bruce in this issue?
No.
Okay. But Barbara essentially, she's active now. She's like, "Well, shit's hitting the fan. I gotta go do something."
She pretty much was like, she in a nicer way, like in one of her panels, was like, "These boys are idiots. I'm gonna have to bring some logic into this." So
she was like, boys.
So she goes and suits up, and she's like, "I'm gonna have to be the one to bring logic into this because men are all idiots."
Yep.
Well, she's not wrong. And 106.
Power to Chuck Dixon for making this statement in 2005.
Right. Yeah. We should cancel Chuck Dixon now. Chapter 6 is aptly titled First Flight. And this is like the culmination story, I guess, of the past, present, and future of the Batman sidekick sagas that will continue well into today, which is 16 years later, essentially. So Dr. Tompkins, who is the little bootang that Matt mentioned earlier, is helping to save Batman's life, and Nightwing and Robin arrive at the warehouse where Alfred is being held. He is still, by the way, disguised as Two-Face.
I was gonna say they don't know it's Alfred.
Right. And the worst part is we learn that Killer Croc is not just some regular old gangster. He's a gangster. My man is out here trapping cocaine, selling guns, doing hood rat things with his friends. Like, when I read that panel where he was just like, there's coke and guns, I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to do this in 2005. I thought it was too soon.
Yep.
So in this one, in this run, or in this issue, at the Gotham Free Clinic, Batgirl checks up on Bruce, and Bruce is just like, he's doing a little bit better. He's like, go to the boys, go find the boys.
He's like still half past. He's like, the boys, Alfred, save them.
Yes, yeah. And Nightwing and Robin, they free Alfred. They beat the shit out of the guards.
They still didn't realize it was Alfred until like they bust in. It's like Two-Face.
Yeah, like the balls.
And then Alfred's like, young Master Grayson, it's so wonderful to see you.
Right.
It's
So
like, oh.
Killer Croc sees them. They fight. Batgirl
Killer Croc
arrives.
busts out a fucking BFG, dude.
So I want to talk about this real quick. The fight between the three of them, right? Killer Croc, Nightwing, and Robin, is absolutely atrocious. Those two should have been killed, eaten, shit on. It should have been a Duke Nukem, like, all over again, where he just like rips the head off and does a dookie down the neck. But of course, girl power, girl boss, Batgirl comes in and she saves the day and takes down Killer Croc.
Royally.
Like, whooped his ass. Like, she is probably. I'm more afraid of her than I might be like Jason Todd is like Red Hood a little bit. Like, she kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like, she's a little too gangster sometimes.
Barbara is pretty like, this is a pretty well written character. I mean, this is pre-Oracle, so pre-Killing Joke, pre all of that.
Yep.
And not story wise, but like canonically, like the story happens before that. So she's it's still like very much younger Barbara, edgier Barbara. Like, it was Batgirl was a pretty good superhero in and of herself, and so it was nice to see Batgirl in this as well.
Yeah. So Batgirl gives Batman a cassette tape from Nightwing, which contains essentially what is the entire narration for the comic of year one.
So we find out this is what Dick was narrating the entire time.
Yeah.
Dick records it.
One of my favorite lines from it is, I may not be your anymore. I'm just as committed to your crusade as the night you made me swear. I wanted you to know that. And something else. You were the best father you could be, given the circumstances. Which made me a little teary-eyed, not gonna lie. And also very wonderful in that, again, Dick is way more attuned with his emotional state than Batman will ever be. And it demonstrates how much more of a bigger person Tim Drake is than Bruce. Because Bruce will passively apologize to someone, or Bruce will passively do something nice for people. But Dick will go out of his way to be like, give this to Batman, tell him it's from me. And he will outwardly demonstrate and, like, you know, show his love languages to the people around him. Whereas Batman's just kind of like, here's a costume.
Dick's a little more of a show off. Essentially,
yeah, for sure,
and he's fine with showing off, and he is fine with you know, if he makes a mistake, Dick also fesses up to it after a certain point.
Yep. So at the end of 106, Dick's at his hotel room, and Jason shows up, which immediately it's just like a little bit frictive, and you can tell they're like kind of
Nick was
still
like, "Who are you?" Because he hasn't
Well,
seen Jason without his costume yet.
I loved it too, because like you could tell that it was still said I fuck you up kind of like vibe the entire like that entire little panel run.
Yeah.
And Jason's like, all right, well, I have a costume for you and a note from Alfred, and it is the new official Nightwing suit that you see from here on out. Basically like what's become the standard Dick Grayson Nightwing kind of a look.
The original
right?
trapeze suit, yeah, they changed it a little after that, where they made it more of the more combat armor than trapeze artist.
They got rid of the transition was very neck collar thing.
Yeah, the Kanye West 2004, 2007 pop collar thing. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, aside from like the moral whatevers, this is a 15, 16-year-old comic. And like it's not dated by any stretch of the imagination.
Not. Yeah.
I like even the it is very cartoonish in nature, right? Like it's it doesn't have like what we talked about back with the Joker or any of the other comics that we've read in the past in terms of like stylings, but it gives the story, which again doesn't have a lot of like villain play, fun, and it gives it life, and it really like translate this comic into being like a narrative driven story without a lot of villains, but it's still super entertaining, beautiful to look at. And I don't know, I really appreciated like just the entirety of the whole thing. And before we like move on to like final thoughts or whatever, there's one thing that should which is Nightwing's first appearance was in Teen Titans story called The Judas Contract. There's actually an animated movie that's out on HBO Max. Yeah, that you can watch. It's really good. What's funny though is that the writers Dixon and Beatty, they don't retcon the story. They actually integrate it into the narrative. So like if you read the two stories together, it's actually perfectly reasonable. All of these stories happened in tandem to each other, even to the point of like explaining how like Dick ended up with like one of the most ridiculous male costumes ever conceived in a Teen Titans story, and to emphasize how like impressive he is, right? Like there's like almost like a 20-year difference between one and the other, and like Nightwing as a character, I think within the DC world is one of the best written characters that I've read, and I've gotten to like because for as much as I love the Green Lantern, like there are too many of them. It is very fuck upable, i.e. Ryan Reynolds' movie. There is a lot of like there are a lot of characters in the DC world that like just like Blank Face is another, or The Question rather, right? Like you could just fuck this up. Constantine is another one that gets fucked up regularly. Dick Grayson for me is like a standard that like I don't give a shit who you are as a writer, you could probably do a good job with. And that's why I love him as a character.
Yep. And that's why it was like back in the day, I shouldn't even say back in the day, but that's why I had high hopes for the DCEU, because I felt that they could have done a really great job of having, we're going to get into a DCEU tangent, but they could have done a really great job with their generation of heroes, and then they could have easily set up for a second generation of heroes, and then they could have transitioned into Teen Titans. Like easily, right? In a big screen, like focal point. But it's ridiculous that I don't know. DCU is DCU.
Yeah, and then they didn't.
Snyder cut in 2 weeks.
Yeah, very excited. Before we go on and say goodbye to all of you lovely people, we have to do something that pressure on my friend Matthew here. Matt, we Ender, Matt, then me, right?
Yeah,
that's the order.
It's Matt, yeah.
Yeah, it's Matt's turn to pick our next read, and hopefully it won't take us 2 weeks to fucking do this comic book.
So I've selected, and I hate what I selected, but to be honest,
you're doing Umbrella Academy.
No. No, we're staying in the same universe, in the same city even.
Shit.
Which is why I hate it, because we're kind of doing back to back DC stuff and Batman related stuff. But I had this on my bookshelf, and I hadn't read it, and I was like, you know what? This is a good excuse for me to read it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And we're going to do Volume 1 of The Court of Owls from the New 52.
Whoa. Okay, cool.
Good one.
I haven't. So
Also,
I haven't
this
read
has
any
really,
of the
really good writers on it. So you got Snyder and Capullo?
Yeah.
Capullo, yeah.
Capullo.
Both are very well known for both Batman and Spawn. Both really, really well regarded comic runs and writers. So, or just comic book people as a whole.
Speaking of Spawn,
So I was like, yeah, I haven't read it, so we'll give it a shot. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
I'm excited.
I love this choice. I haven't read any of the New 52 shit. No idea
Same.
what it even means in some cases. So, Inder, if you want to give us a little background here.
It's hit or miss. So there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of New 52. New 52 ultimately led to Rebirth, but there's a lot of retcons in New 52. But the retcons get retconned in Rebirth.
So your
Comics.
normal DC stuff.
Hell yeah. Comics. And it's all, we all know why it gets retconned, right? Speed Force.
Oh, of course.
It's always the
It's
Speed
always Barry.
Force. It was Wally.
Barry.
It
was Wally this time. God damn it. Damn it, Wally.
Because I think I might be wrong. So basically, for all of New 52, Wally disappeared, and then Wally comes back in Rebirth, and that's what fixes the timeline or some shit. So,
if there's one thing that we have to appreciate about the Flash or the Speedster family, it's just how much of just a bunch of fucking consistent fuck ups. It's
hell
absolutely,
yeah.
They're like
If
the
the
redneck
timeline
family
can
that
be
can't get out of
ruined,
the mess
we're
business.
ruining it.
Wait, what was that?
If the timeline can be ruined, we're ruining it.
100%. Yes. Yep. They
Yeah,
are the
going back to
perpetual
Spawn.
love-making family.
Excited for Spawn this year. I don't know if anyone's paid attention to it, but McFarlane did a huge Year of Spawn thing where there's going to be, I think, he's basically not restarting, but expanding on the Spawn universe for the very first time since Spawn, like, over 30 years ago.
Wow.
And he's doing, I think it's 2 separate weekly runs and, like, one big, like, 6-issue run to, like, kind of enhance the Spawn world, flesh the Spawn world out a little, kind of not reboot it, but soft reboot for, like, a new
That's
reader.
pretty cool.
So that's really cool. Looking forward to that. What else is going on in comics as we wrap up?
Hold on. I need to grab a roll.
You do that. I got Headlopper Volume 2.
I haven't been reading a lot, really. I've been like watching stuff, like obviously the Marvel stuff, like WandaVision that's out, and getting ready for the other shows that are coming, as well as the movies this year. But I haven't been doing a lot of reading, unfortunately.
I haven't been going out of my way to read a bunch of stuff. I've been reading, obviously, a lot of the Star Wars stuff for my channel, but the new High Republic issues come out this week, so I'm looking forward to that. Since that's kind of a fresh story. What'd you bring?
So our first episode was the Age of Khonshu, and it has been a run that I have been getting delivered by comics in New York since the pandemic started. I've officially broken through into the Enter the Phoenix run, which is the continuation of that, and I've reread all of these at least 6 times. This is, I have, like, dude, I gotta give Marvel a lot of credit. I know you guys are, Matt's a little bit more of a Marvel head than you, but like, they run circles like around DC when it comes to like some of the content that they're putting out. Like, it's really depressing. Like, movie wise, comic wise, show wise, like it frustrates me so much.
It's frustrating because I love DC up to a point, and then DC's fresh content really just it's not fresh. There's no.
Well, Titans is cool, but like,
yeah, Titans is cool.
You can't stack up Titans versus WandaVision.
You can't.
Like,
you literally can't.
And that's actually what I wanted to transition to this. We won't do spoilers of this past week's episode if you haven't watched it. But we need to talk about for one hot second before we log off. Matt, what's our timer at? Like, where are we at?
We're at 1:10.
1 hour 10.
Perfect. So real quick, for like 2 or 3 minutes, I just wanted to talk about Wanda. I've always enjoyed Vision as a character. Maybe behind like I have a tendency to love characters in these universes. So like Moon Knight, Dr. Fate, Zatanna is one of my favorite ones. Whatever. Vision has always been like my second favorite. Like he competes every once in a while with Moon Knight. This is probably the best writing, casting, and like just all like visually interesting like live action thing they could have done with his character. Because like Wanda the Scarlet Witch is like, she is Wanda Maximoff. Like you could do 1,000,004 things with her. You could have had ScarJo play her on the show and been like, oh, it's an alternate universe, it is, and it would have been fine, you know what I mean? But like Vision is so good, and this TV show is so well written. I actually like I had to stop watching because I was like, yo, I'm getting annoyed that I can't see it every Friday. I have to wait every Friday to see it. So like I let 4 episodes stack up, and then I went boom, 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 like on a Friday evening, and it was the best 2
Decision
hours
you
I've
made.
had.
Yeah,
it was
it's
the best 2 hours I've
insane.
had in a long
It's
time.
so good because WandaVision was basically, hey, you know, we made Iron Man 1, 2, 3, but why don't we just do a TV show for Wanda? And it's fantastic. They introduced Wanda in the MCU, and then they actually managed to make an entire backstory with character development, addressing everything that's happened to her up to this point with Vision. And it's just, they gave them their own better than a movie.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody could, like, Liz Olsen's been fantastic. I don't know if anybody could have like popped in and done what she's done with the character. But the show's been great. Bettany is amazing, of course, as Vision. But like you mentioned at the start of this about how DC doesn't really do, like, you don't get
New, fresh stuff.
Well, but you also don't get the human side of these characters. Like, these characters put their suits on and that's the character. But like the thing that Marvel's always been fantastic at, even for their smaller characters, like of course the MCU is massive now, but like Iron Man was a smaller character, Thor was an okay sized character, like Vision was a side character, Scarlet Witch was a side character. Like all these characters that we love today were not huge comic characters, but even still, one of the things that Marvel's always done way better, and with most of their characters, is they take the human side first.
They do the opposite. So I remember seeing the quote of Marvel is gods become human and DC is humans become gods.
Yeah,
and that's very much
character
apparent.
is, they're a superhero, but they also, like, they're a person and they have these real life problems, and like you can't just like waking up at 10 p.m. putting on a bat suit and going to beat the shit out of people. You might do that, but like it's not real. Like, none of it's real life, but like it's not like, that's not what life is. You don't just wake up, put a suit on, go beat the shit out of somebody, go to sleep. Like,
and it's unfortunate because
you're still a person.
Speaking of Bruce Wayne, like, he is probably one of the richest characters that you could humanize.
I know, yeah. Imagine
like,
the real life stuff that you could get into, but they just like he is Batman, and that's the character. But like Marvel does all the other stuff. Like Spider-Man has the school problems, and you know the teenager life problems, and you know, in the modern run of comics, he's an adult with his own company and all this other stuff. But still, he has all these old problems, and all these other characters have all their problems going on, and it's very, very humanized, and that displays really well, and they do such a good job of putting that in movies and in TV shows, and with WandaVision now, with the flashbacks and going through her life, and even stuff that we hadn't seen to this point, and just all this that scene with Vision, I won't spoil it, but that scene with Vision from this week's episode, or this past week's episode, it's so good.
Are you talking when she goes to the headquarters?
When she
Yeah, I agree. And
question, not spoiling this week's episode, but the week before, which should be okay at this point.
Yeah, go nuts, dude. Who gives a fuck?
Agatha's grimoire. Are we supposed to assume that that's the Darkhold or not?
No. You're not. Not yet, I would say, but I want to add one more caveat to Agatha is her teacher. So
Yeah.
eventually, either one of these two will give you what you think is happening, but I don't think it's going to be Agatha.
I think it is very apparent too from, I don't know, I don't want to get too into it, but it's clear that Agatha's basically not the villain here.
No, not at all.
At all.
I don't know if there is a villain.
I don't think there's a
se.
clear-cut villain. Yeah.
No,
I think
there is,
there's
and
different people
well,
doing their agendas.
There's one very interesting thing here that I want to bring up. Have you noticed how there is a difference in reality between what Wanda does and what was presented to the scientists 2 episodes ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
you know, I guess you guys have probably stopped listening by now, or stopped watching if you were worried about spoilers. But what you like, one of the biggest things that stands out is what you see so far is this whole time you're thinking Wanda has taken Vision's body. And
That was insane when we saw her
because
leave.
that's what you see in like the second episode. That's what you see, or maybe the third episode.
Mm-hmm.
You see
Third episode.
the camera footage of Wanda standing over the body, and she's pissed,
breaking in. Yeah.
and then that's
And
it.
she
That's all of it you
breaks
see,
the door open. She
And
breaks the
Hayward's
door
like,
open.
she took the body.
and
Right.
that's all you see. And so your mind is like, okay, well, I see Vision.
Wanda's lost
I've
it.
now seen this footage of her standing over Vision's broken body. So
We see
obviously
Vision
she-
in WandaVision.
Yeah, so
Like,
obviously she took the body and now she's reanimated it. But like, you never suspect anything like what was revealed this past week about what really happened and what's really going on.
Yep.
So, man,
I have high hopes for what Titan does. Batwoman was awful. I think I said this 2 podcasts ago, or the last one. I watched it. It was ugh.
Superman and Lois pilot premiered this week. I was pleasantly surprised at how good, comparatively to like for a CW show, really well done, really fresh story. I'd check it out. It's Superman being a dad.
Dude,
And it's,
do you remember Dean Cain did this fucking 15, 20 years ago?
so that was going to be the next season of Superman and Lois, right? They were going to raise the kid, but they never did that.
Yes.
So this is kind of
Yes.
like a spiritual continuation. It's not
but
bad
with a
at
better
all.
Superman. I like this guy as
yes.
Superman.
I like Tyler. I like.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot.
I was pleasantly surprised by the pilot. I'll hold judgment for now, but light spoilers. I think we're getting a Black Lex.
Oh shit!
So
That's
that
what's up.
was
It's like when we got-
that was a big thing
like-
for me.
Like when we got a black Kingpin. That was dope.
We're about to
That
get a
was
Black
pretty cool.
Superman.
Movies.
Oh, we're about
Yeah,
to get a
whatever,
Black
bro.
Superman.
Let's do
And,
it.
I'm gonna
with
love
this.
if they do Black Superman with the Black Superman costume.
Ooh, that's a
The
little too
like the
much.
different blue, the brighter blue with the silver. That will look fantastic.
Whatever looks better on Michael B. Jordan, because you know he's going to be Superman.
Correct.
Damn, crossing to the dark side. All right, folks, it's been a lot of fun talking to you guys about Nightwing Year 1. Matt, please tell them one more time what we're doing next week, because we're sticking to the schedule. Damn it.
Batman Volume 1 of the Court of Owls from the New 52 run.
That is what's up.
Yep.
For those of you guys that are interested, we are doing our Uncoachables podcast tomorrow. And listen on Spotify. You can watch on Twitch under the Culture Fluent Media umbrella that we're burgeoning and building very slowly. We're gonna have a culture. We're gonna. You can also listen to this on Spotify as well. All you have to do is search for the Uncoachables or the Unmaskables. You can catch us on YouTube if you want to do a recap of this as well, under Culture Fluent Media or the Uncoachables or the Unwatchables. Like, subscribe, share with your family members or friends, or neither. I could really give a fuck.
Pretty soon
ideally,
we'll
you
start
do
an
that.
ASMR channel as well.
I don't know if we'll go that
Wait,
far.
before we go, last thing. Zoom in real quick.
Two things actually. So
Oh shit. Oh, nice.
Volume
Ed Lopper
2,
Volume 2 started
continuing.
it. For anyone that
I like
was
it.
listening last on
Are
Unmaskables,
we
I
friends
like
with
it so
Andrew
far.
yet? Is Andrew our friend yet?
Dude, I'm following him on Instagram. He'll eventually notice me, senpai. But until then, we're screwed. But
Wait, say notice me, senpai, with the Zoom.
with the Zoom, notice me.
Yeah.
Notice me, senpai.
All
Notice
right,
me.
I'm done. That's all I needed.
And with that, we out.
Peace out, guys.